Hello, I'm Nicolas, the CEO of HappyWork, the company of the real estate software HappyMo. We provide the solution all around the world. We have many offices in Europe, and we have real estate portal reselling our solution in Asia and Latin America. We provide a big opportunity to the real estate portal to provide solutions compliant and plug and play with the real estate portal. You have opportunity to improve the quality of the data of the listing on your real estate portal by providing a solution to the real estate broker.
So Matthew and Justin, thank you very much for joining us. Matthew, tell us a bit about what the Digital Classified Group does.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Simon, we primarily operate real estate portals in all of our markets. So our bigger markets are Papua New Guinea, Cambodia and Laos. We also have presence in Mongolia with a joint venture and a website in Fiji. And then in Papua New Guinea and Laos, we also operate leading general classified marketplaces as well. So we've sort of got an end-to-end solution in PNG and Laos, and then real estate portals in all markets.
Okay. And well, Justin, I think is just trying to log back in. Justin, I'm not sure if you can hear us. Hopefully you can.
Yeah, no, I can hear you, Simon. Sorry, the camera's not working for some reason. I'll try and get it while we're on.
Okay, so while we're having a chat, Justin, if you could tell us a bit about what Shweproperty does.
Yeah, so Shweproperty is a property portal, obviously, but we also do a lot of transactions. So what I mean by that is property sales, so sales and marketing services for developers, and we also do home loan transactions for a lot of the banks as well.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm gonna have a bit of chat about the impact of COVID on your markets, because what I want to do is understanding that context. We then want to talk about transaction models, because what's consistent between both of yourselves is the fact that you're getting deep into transactions as a way to grow the businesses. So first of all, Matthew, let's talk about what's been the impact of COVID on Cambodia, Laos, and in particular those markets.
Probably the single biggest impact is a lack of travel between countries. Our websites are we're local language, but also heavily internationally trafficked. So big impact on expat sales and rentals. Within the countries, thankfully, relatively unscathed from a health perspective, but still a limited ability to conduct physical events because there's ban on large gatherings. And then obviously economic impact to our clients. So less transactions in the market, and generally these economies have been somewhat impacted by exports, and the markets are generally a little bit depressed compared with last year.
Okay, and Justin, what about Myanmar?
So we were lucky kind of earlier in the year because we got it late, but unfortunately it kicked in late March, and April we went into lockdowns, so everybody went to work from home for at least probably a few months. Things eased up in July, which was really good, but just recently we've gone into complete lockdown, so it's been quite challenging because people can't go anywhere, they can't travel. Borders are still locked. Import-exports are not possible on most fronts as well. So it's a pretty challenging time here in Myanmar, but we'll get through.
Okay, so I want to focus the conversation on transaction-based businesses. Both of you are entering transactions in some way, shape or form. Let's start with you, Matthew. How do you view getting into the transaction business? Why get into the transaction business, and what are you trying to achieve by doing so?
Well, we're probably a little bit behind Justin. We, in all of our markets, more or less, we've acquired existing businesses that have been around for a long time. For instance, Cambodia, the site we acquired there has been existing since 2009. So very traditional, dominant classified business. So with a lot of existing relationships with agents and a real classic business. So we're transitioning towards the transactional model. And I think for us, how we view it is more alignment with both our users and our customers. The reality is advertising models in Southeast Asia have been difficult to make work. They're not exclusive listing markets. There's lots of issues with duplicate listings, etc. So I think as you transition towards a marketplace model, we get more alignment with our users in terms of improving the quality of service, whether it's duplicate listings or making sure that calls are actually answered by agents. And then we also deliver better, more transparent outcomes for our developer clients and also our agent clients. So I think it's a natural evolution of the business. Obviously, a higher revenue as well, and hopefully profit down the line.
Okay. And I assume, Justin, a lot of that's very similar in your market?
Yeah, very much so. I think, you know, Myanmar, it's not as far ahead as Cambodia or Australia or, you know, Singapore, etc. So there's very limited revenue in advertising. So, you know, the country literally has lots of brokers, but, you know, agents that pay, there's probably, you know, 25, you know, in the market. So the only way to make revenue is transactions. So we do a lot of transactions. We do, you know, literally hundreds of transactions. But during COVID, it's a lot more challenging because, you know, home buyers, they want to see homes. And if you can't travel, then it really restricts and limits the amount of transactions you can do. But it's a very lucrative area. We get lots of commission from that, but we also get commission from home loans as well. So we get a clip on the property transaction and a clip on the home loan.
Okay. Now, when we think about selling homes, are you focused on the new home segment, or are you thinking about the established home markets? Which ones do you primarily focus on?
Yeah, so in our case, both. We have a slightly different model for each. With developer clients, we have a hybrid model. You know, some developers we still work with on a very traditional advertising model, and then we have a completely end-to-end transactional model, even on an exclusive basis in some instances in some markets. With agents, because we've got such long-standing relationships in the market with agents and they're a big part of our platform, we generally operate selectively with certain agents on a commission split basis. And that's for both primarily secondary market. Agents in our markets generally don't sell a lot of primary inventory. That's normally handled by developer sales team and some specialized agencies. So on the agent side, definitely secondary stock and normally on a commission share basis, which has been quite good for us. We've been able to keep agents, you know, on our side and engaged in our platform, and also been able to take more of the pie, so to speak.
So if I understand correctly, you are sourcing the listings, you're doing the marketing, generating leads, farming the leads out to existing agents rather than having your own sales team?
Correct. On the secondary side, that's exactly right. So we would generate the lead, send it to a friendly agent, but we'll do a lot of lead nurturing in that process. It won't just be a lead that's sent directly through to an agent. It'll be nurtured by us. Our sales team would have contacted that particular customer many times and made sure that that deal's almost there. Hand it over to an agent, then stay involved in the process to generate the sale. Once the sale goes through, we'll actually take a share of the commission. On the other side, with developers, we will either do something similar, a commission share, or it might go to an actual agent that's employed by us, our own sales team, and we'll complete the transaction end to end. So we sort of have a hybrid model.
Okay. And Justin, what about on your business?
Yeah, so we focus on mainly primary market. We do some secondary, but primary market, given the growth of the country over the last few years particularly, there's a lot of inventory in affordables, in mid-sized properties and luxury. So we have our own sales force, happy to work with agents, but our sales force is, you know, pretty crack. We train them very well to do lots of transactions. The key to doing transactions is not so much the salespeople per se. It's more making sure you have the right processes in place. So how do you funnel literally thousands of transactions into a team, have the right procedures? As Georg said, how do you manage the leads? The leads is all about where the revenue is. How do you manage it? How do you track it? How do you follow it? And then how do you have it come back to close the transaction? So hiring, you know, hundreds of salespeople, young, boys and girls is relatively quite easy. It's more about the process and how you manage the lead, which is what we do.
Okay, so we understand now how important is technology to both of you in really running this sort of transaction-based process? I assume as Joe from the PropTech group was talking about, it's about how do you make offices as efficient as possible, and I guess in this case you're acting like an office. So when you think about technology, how important it is to you? Do you build it yourself? Do you work with external companies to build out this technology? Mathew, how have you approached this?
Yeah, it's critical, obviously, and we have a hybrid approach. So we've got extremely, I think, relatively speaking, extremely advanced technology on the lead management side for secondary market. So all of our leads go through a chat product that we've got complete visibility on. We lead score. We'll measure response rates from agents, and then once a lead, if we're conducting a transaction internally or managing that transaction through with an agent, then it goes into our own internal systems, and we manage that lead very well. Some of it's proprietary technology on the front end, and the CRM is more or less off the shelf but heavily customized. That's one sort of approach. In addition to that, we've got an investment in a very tech-enabled broker in Southeast Asia, and they've got some amazing technology, and we've got some rights to write that tech in our market. So, technology is very expensive, and we have relatively small markets. We've chosen to make an investment in a business that is really pushing the envelope of what's possible with technology, from from identifying the listing as real, negotiating the listing, all sorts of different amazing tech which they're building, and we'll roll out progressively into our market. So I guess we've got a foot in both camps, really.
Okay, can you share the name of the company that you're working with?
You always ask me this, Simon. I always say I can't. Soon enough, I will. Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'll keep asking. And
yeah, that's fine.
Maybe let people know, because they're going to ask, right? So people are curious, so they're going to ask.
Sure.
And Justin, how do you approach this?
So we have our own tech teams. So having a background in tech, I like to have control of it. They call me a control freak. But what it does is gives us flexibility and speed. A lot of portals, traditionally in other countries, I guess, focus very much on leads for secondary market real estate agents. But because, which is fair enough to get content and traffic, but we focus more on leads for primary market and our transaction team. So we look at how do we get more leads, how do we get more conversions in order to make more sales. So what we do is we have a website, and then underneath we have a fully integrated CRM. So we can see everything that's happening on the front. We can see all the leads, we can see all the buyers, and what they're doing to get the best experience. But of course, what we do is we have the CRMs for our project sales team, and what they do is they get the leads, and then the lead routing module tracks the lead all the way from the marketing, all the way to the property, all the way to the project sales team, and then back again, so that not a single lead is lost. In emerging markets, I think I heard earlier the gentleman from India, tracking those leads are absolutely key, because some leads can get lost, especially in markets like Myanmar or elsewhere. It's very easy for a lead. I'm not sure if Matt has seen that yet in Cambodia, but it's very easy for a lead and say, hey, look, I know an uncle or a brother. Why don't you pass that lead to the developer? And then all of a sudden you have leakage. So our technology gets the lead right from the start, and then it's a full circle or cycle, if you like, to be able to manage it, track it, make sure it's optimized, and then process that lead into a transaction. So the technology part's really key.
Okay, so it's interesting. We did get a question here, which is, how do you prevent leakage in the transaction? The agent or developer jumps over the portal after getting the leads to close the sale. How do you actually stop that in your markets?
In our case, well, there's two ways. I mean, obviously lead management. So the way we see leads now is they're our assets. So we'll manage a customer we're quite upfront with our agents and our developers that if a lead comes in and we give it to you, that's not your lead to decide whether or not, we can't service that customer, so we let it go. We are very open that we're going to maintain very close contact with that customer the whole way through, so we can make sure the user actually ends up getting having a good experience and hopefully buying or renting a property. And the other side is, I think if you've got a good relationship with your developers, you are going to have a little bit of leakage, but there's always that stick that if we're not having a good, honest relationship and we're not being treated with respect, then we just simply can't be part of the platform. And as we are the leading platform in the market, that is quite a disincentive to agents and developers, not respecting the leads and trying to sort of go direct.
Okay. I've got another question here, which actually is quite a good one. Property Guru has just raised 300 million Singapore dollars, I think it was. Do you expect them to move into your markets, or do you think they're just going to continue to focus on in their core markets?
If the question's to me, I don't expect Property Guru to come to Cambodia anytime soon. I think they've got enough competition and big enough opportunities in their existing markets. And I think they are somewhat of a legacy business. And I think they need to retool their business in their existing markets to ensure that competitors that are coming up on more transactional models don't get a big leg up.
Yep. And Justin, in Myanmar?
Well, the first question regarding the leakage, I think, markets like Myanmar are very susceptible to leakage. Developers, want to get discounts on commission, so they're part of the problem. So the way we deal with it, again, this lead routing module, we track every single lead, which means that we know exactly what salesperson got the lead, what they did with it, how long they held it, did they make the call, and we literally follow the money to make sure we close it. Property Guru, no, they won't come here. I think we're too small. The market's not developed enough for them yet. We actually work with them on the Myanmar Property Awards, and we have an agreement that they can't come here. So, till many years down the track.
Okay, which makes sense. Now, when we roll the clock forward and we start to look into that crystal ball, what does both the sort of Cambodian, Laos, and sort of Myanmar markets look like in the future? What do you see the role of portals and marketplaces? Is it focused purely on transactions in the future? Do you think there is the two businesses running in parallel? What do you see the opportunities being? Let's start with you, Matthew.
I see transactions as being a big part of the solution for users. I think really when I think about the future, I think about what do users want. I think we have to accept that you're never going to be all things to all people in the market. There will always be agents. There'll always be developers that will have their own sales teams that will not want to engage with the portal. So I think you need, as a leading classified marketplace, you have to have a model that can cater to both the agents on the way they may want to operate and developers. I think that transactions will be a large part of professionalizing the market, and the portal will be leading the way in that, which is what we're doing, trying to professionalize the market by centralizing the lead flow, proving that we can offer users a much better experience than some of the agents, and helping agents to provide a better experience to their users, and similarly with developers. I think right at the end game, maybe some transactions will be conducted purely online, but I do think that's quite a while away, and that's into the future. But over the next 2 to 3 years, I think a hybrid model, both traditional advertising and marketplace services, selectively with certain agents, certain developments.
Okay, and Justin, what about your market?
I think for us, it's all about transactions. There's very limited advertising revenue from, both agents and developers. So it's very much, getting as many transactions as we can from property sales. Home loans is a big part. One thing during COVID, even though transactions have gone down significantly, home loans is actually reasonably okay. And that's because, we integrated into the platform. But we are looking at other transaction third-party services. There's a lot of companies that have come into the country that are related to property sales, whether it's, for example, removals or insurance, etc. So I think it's all about that and increasing commission. If we increase commission, you get higher revenue, but you also get to profitability, which is important.
Okay. So I would have thought from an outside-in perspective, is when you're basically providing a platform within a market. You're doing the hard yards at everything from dealing with governments to automation of what is probably fundamentally quite a manual transaction within your markets. There's this digitization, and you're then on top of all of that data overlaying systems and processes that allow someone. So at the moment you can, just in your market, you're doing it yourself. You're going and talking to the developers, and they're using, you're using your own technology to end up with a sale at the end. Whereas Matthew, in your market, you've got this hybrid model going. But wouldn't you argue, you could argue that if you put in place this end-to-end process that works within your market, why couldn't anyone, including your own teams, use that system and process, that platform, to make transactions occur, whether it's for new development, established homes, or even rentals in the market?
Oh, I absolutely agree, and I think you're seeing that in some of the models that are coming out of China, for instance, like ke.com. So I do think that that's a great end state and something to work towards. I think we're in a fortunate position that we in our market we are the platform of choice, and we just have to transition in a deliberate, progressive way. And there's a risk that if we move too quickly, we might offside some of our critical customers, which provide us with a unique position, a big moat in the market. We've got the lion's share of the eyeballs in the inventory. So for us, we need to move in a probably a slightly slower fashion. But absolutely, I think having that end-to-end platform that people can engage, that our teams and individual agents and agencies can interact with at will is definitely the ultimate end game.
And Justin, from your market perspective?
Yeah, I think a little bit different to Cambodia and perhaps other developed markets. We don't have lots of agents that we'd upset, right? So, and a lot of developers don't work with agents on particularly primary market. So for us, it's using, our focus is very much on the technology, make sure that we process the transaction as easy and as fast as possible, all the way to sale and purchase agreements, especially managing the lead up front at the lowest cost possible, basically. So our focus is very much on that. It's actually kind of good during COVID because things are a bit quiet. We can very much focus on those systems and processes so that when things do rebound, we can pump thousands of transactions through it.
Okay, Matthew, Justin, thank you very much for taking the time to chat today. Fascinating, to hear how you're making progress in these very early stage markets, ones that have got a lot of interesting challenges about them. Well done for creating market leaders in those markets, and I wish you all the best of luck in growing your businesses.
Thanks, Simon.
Great, thanks, Simon. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, cheers.
So thank you to the guys there. It's always been fascinating to see how those businesses are growing, and really, when you look at some of the challenges that they face, just infrastructure challenges, it's amazing the progress that is truly occurring. Big thanks to our sponsors again for their continued support. Now I'd like to invite Tanuj Shori to join us. Tanuj is the CEO of Square Yards. Square Yards is building a fantastic transaction business in the Indian market and throughout the world. And I'm keen to have a conversation with him. We had a chat a little while ago, and I'm keen to hear an update of how the business is going. Tanuj, so thank you very much for joining us today. Tanuj, how are you? Tanuj, I don't know if you can hear me, but we can hear you at your end. Okay, so I think while Tanuj has got...
Hello, I'm Nicolas, the CEO of APAC, the company of the real estate software Apimo. We provide the solution all around the world. We have many offices in Europe, and we have real estate portal reselling our solution in Asia and Latin America. We provide a big opportunity to the real estate portal to provide solutions compliant and plug and play with the real estate portal. You have opportunity to improve the quality of the data of the listing on your real estate portal by providing a solution to the real estate broker.